Joining us now is Janet Porter. She's the president and founder of Faith to Action, a pro-life network for the family. Janet initiated the nation's first heartbeat bill in Ohio. The goal was to legally protect preborn babies with detectable heartbeats. Janet has authored 5 books, including her latest, A Heartbeat Away. Janet, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, as we get started, since Roe versus Wade, January 22, 1973, an estimated 60 plus million abortions in our country, about 1.5 million annually. It's certainly a topic that is often discussed around the dinner table, but man, is it front and center in our country, especially right now as we head into the election. I saw recently that the Guttmacher Institute estimated about 40+% of American women under the age of 45 have had an abortion. That's a lot of women. And so this is touching lives personally. It's also a highly charged political issue. What are your thoughts on where we're at right now?
Well, you made it very clear. We have never been in a place where the choice is more clear, where we have a choice of life or we have a choice of death. This is the most critical issue in our country because upon which life is the issue upon which every other issue is based. You know, what good is free healthcare if you're dead? Life is what matters, is our first right. And there's no question where the candidates stand on this. President Trump has made promises. He's kept promises. He's put pro-lifers on the courts, on the Supreme Court. He has issued pro-life policy. And then we look at the Biden-Harris ticket, and we're looking at people, the most rabidly pro-abortion choice that our nation could make. I mean, we're looking at paid for. What would happen is we'd have to pay for abortion through birth up until that child's first gasp of breath at birth. I mean, it doesn't get any more clear than that. The choice is life or death, and we're, of course, encouraging people to choose life.
You know, Janet, we've been talking inside of Christianity about abortion for a long time. Dr. Dobson, a host of others have helped lead the way. You've been right in the middle of the thick of all that. And the pro-life movement has been making a lot of gains. I want to talk a little bit about them just for a moment so our viewers catch the spirit of where we're going here just for a moment. And then we'll talk a lot about the candidates and where they're at. Janet, in terms of abortion clinics, I saw back a few years ago there were about nearly 2,000 of them or so in the country. That number has been reduced significantly because of pro-life efforts. I mean, it's down into the hundreds, is what I'm told. That's a pretty big deal. And a lot of what's going on now is legislatively oriented, right? A lot of people are working at the state level, trying to deal with abortion through the legal process, and we're making gains there. Can you update us?
Sure. Let me just tell you from personal experience, we have seen a more advancement in the pro-life cause, even just last year, than we've seen in 47 years leading up to this. There are 6 heartbeat bills that passed in the first 5 months of 2019. And then we've seen another one pass this year in Tennessee. So there have been 10 heartbeat bills in all. And what those bills say that if a heartbeat is detected, the baby is protected. It will protect nearly every child facing an abortion. And since we first introduced this bill a decade ago, there have been 29 states that have introduced this. Alabama had a full protection from conception. We have never seen the advancements in this arena like we have in the last few years. It is encouraging. It is hopeful. But one thing we've learned by the latest Supreme Court rulings is that we need some more justices on the Supreme Court. And that's why we need President Trump around to make those appointments. If we want our laws to be upheld, we need a court that's going to do it, and we need judges that are pro-life. You know, I've been in this movement, as you said, a long time. It used to be that a lot of legislators, a lot of the people running for president would play a lot of games. We'll put people on the court that will interpret the Constitution, and they'll be concerned. No. What President Trump has done, he's come right out and said it. My litmus test is you have to be pro-life. And it's just so refreshing. You know, you may not like that he's a little rough around the edges, but I love that he is direct. He is to the point. You can count on what he says, because what he says is even more importantly is what he does. And he backs up what he says with his actions.
Janet, they're saying that this next election whoever's elected president may appoint 2, maybe even 3 more justices to the court. That's a big deal. We're talking about generational impact here, aren't we?
Yes, we are. You know, I saw a Facebook post the other day, and it said, well, President Trump talked about defunding Planned Parenthood. How come he hasn't done it in the last 4 years? Well, the answer to that question is that it's Congress that holds the purse strings. But you know what I love about President Trump? He doesn't do things the ordinary way, the orthodox way, waiting on Congress to do what they promise and don't keep their promises. What he did is he changed the rules of Title X and said, hey, Planned Parenthood, if you want $60 million, then you've got to itemize what is legitimate health care from what is abortion. And guess what? Planned Parenthood said no. They literally turned down 60 million of our tax dollars rather than specify what they do with it. Because why? Because their legitimate health care is really just a smokescreen for what they really do, and that is kill babies. And they're doing it with our tax dollars in other ways. But it's the president that found a way to defund them when Congress wouldn't do it. It's the president that's put pro-life judges on the court. It's the president, this president's the only one that ever spoke at the pro-life march. In fact, that's why I dedicated my book to him. It is a quote from his speech at the pro-life march. He said this: unborn children have never had a stronger defender in the White House. Very, very true. He said this: they are coming after me because I am fighting for you, and we are fighting for those who have no voice, and we will win because we know how to win. And I would submit to the president that heartbeat bills are the way to win, because when we took a national poll, we found that this bill that will keep hearts beating, had the support of America. 7 out of 10 favored this bill. 86% of Republicans, according to a Barner scientific poll. But here's the part that was the shock. And I'm glad, I hope people are sitting down for this, but 55%. A majority of Democrats favor a bill to keep hearts beating, which shows you how far out of step that the Harris and Biden campaign are. They actually want us to fund abortions till birth. And I'll tell you one other thing. That Kamala Harris, when she was running for president, went even beyond. Can you imagine this? She said, I'm going to make sure that any state that passes a pro-life law runs it by my Department of Justice to make sure it complies with the unconstitutional ruling of Roe versus Wade. In other words, she's going to tell people, hey, you can't pass heartbeat and full protection laws anywhere in the state, any state, as long as I'm in charge. This tells you where we are. And I got to tell you something. There are a lot of people who are still hung up on a tweet they heard or something the president did in his past. I gotta say something, that we cannot let unborn children pay for your personality preference with their lives, because that's what we're dealing with. This is not American Idol. This is not Mr. Congeniality beauty pageant. This is policy. And the choice in the policies that will come with this choice is life or death for millions of American children.
You know, Janet, if it's true that the majority of Americans, even Republicans and Democrats, want some type of limitations on abortion, I mean, we know that's true. We know that's true. How in the world have we gotten to a place with all these advances that we're now talking about aborting a baby in a birth canal or something? You hear what I'm saying? I can't even believe, like, the governor of Virginia would even take us to that place, and that we're talking about it nationally as a part of the debates potentially that we're going to see coming up.
It's crazy. You know, I remember back in the 90s, 1994, when I had the privilege to introduce and work toward passage of the nation's first ban on partial birth abortion. And I remember showing the procedure, showing what it was like to legislators, and seeing them break down and cry in front of me. And I remember thinking, well, surely the pro-abortion movement won't go as far as killing a child during the process of delivery. And I was wrong. There is something I've learned in these battles, and that is you can always count on the extremism of the pro-abortion movement. They will stop at nothing. And that's why we saw the governor, as you mentioned, and I wrote about it in my book, the governor of Virginia saying, yeah, and if they make it out alive, if they're born, well, we can then decide whether or not we want to keep them comfortable, whether or not we just want to neglect and let the child die. That is called homicide. And that is the new position of the pro-abortion party. And sadly, it's not so new, but the truth is it's coming out. And this is what I believe. I believe the enemy has overplayed his hand.
Woo! I think you got a little fire in you. Janet Porter, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.